Chocky, and she said, "Now think of nothing, like you do with your painting." And I was swimming. So you see, it wasn't me at all. It was Chocky.
Fast asleep. Fast asleep. Good. Chocky, Matthew has built up an elaborate fantasy system. That's all.
I cannot come to you anymore. Forget me,
Please,
Matthew.
don't leave me, Chocky.
Forget.
Don't go away.
Forget.
It's Chocky's medal, not mine. She's the one that saved me and Polly. That's not true!
Matthew! Matthew!
Bye.
I see. Yes, of course.
Hello, darling. Sorry I'm so late.
David, thank heavens you're home.
Listen, you will.
What is it? What's happened?
It's Matthew. He's missing.
Missing?
Yeah. I really think Mary ought to tell you.
Matthew didn't come home from school.
Well, wasn't he with Colin?
No, Colin had choir practice. He had to stay on later. Otherwise...
Oh, yes, of course.
Now David's home, I better get back to my lot. Matthew will turn up soon, you'll see.
Yes, thanks, Phil.
Anyway, call me if there's anything I can do.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Good night.
Bye.
You've no idea where he might have gone?
No. Oh, David.
You've asked the school? Teachers? Friends?
Everybody I can think of. Oh, I'm so worried. Will you hear such dreadful things?
Oh, yes, I know, but...
I mean, I've rung all the hospitals for miles around.
The police?
Yes, they came round, they searched the house, the garden, they talked to Colin and Phil and the schools. Oh, David, I'm so scared.
Yes, of course, darling, but there's bound to be a perfectly simple explanation.
Well, like what? I keep imagining all sorts of things. Well, I can see him. It's that Chocky business, isn't it?
Well, I thought all that was over and done with after he saw old Thorpe.
So did I. I thought that Thorpe was right. I thought that the fantasy would break up and dispel and that would be that.
Things are never that simple.
No. And Matthew's been so withdrawn since, well, he never says anything. Not to me, anyway. And now this.
Did you tell the police anything about Chocky?
No, of course not.
What did you tell them?
Well, I said that he'd been a bit upset lately, what with all the fuss about the rescue and everything.
Good.
Well, you don't think that he...
No, of course I don't, and you mustn't either. Look, Chocky going away has been a shock to him. Whatever she was, he got used to having her around. He needed to adjust. If he was going to do anything silly, he'd have done it a fortnight ago, but nothing of the kind ever entered his head, I'm sure of it.
I'm sure you're right. But that's what makes it all the more difficult to understand. I mean, he's not an insensitive boy. He must know how we're feeling, so why? Why?
Two 3069. Yes, this is David Gore. Yes? Yes, I see. When was this, Mr. Bollett? Right, thank you very much. I'll let the police know at once. Thank you.
Well?
That was, Mr. Bollett. His sounds in the ear about Matthew.
Yes.
He just seen the papers. He says he saw Matthew on Friday on the way home from school. He was talking to a man a little way down from the school gates. He says Matthew got into a car with him, a Mercedes, he thinks, and they drove off.
No!
Hello, this is David Gore. Could I speak to Inspector Max, please?
In Surrey, the search continues for 12-year-old Matthew Gore, who has now been missing for 5 days. In spite of a massive hunt by police and volunteers, there is still no trace of Matthew, who was abducted from near his school last Friday by a man in a dark-coloured Mercedes car. Matthew was dressed in his...
Darling, we mustn't give up hope.
I'll never see him again, I know it. Thank you very much.
Excuse me. Can you help me, please?
Yes, what is it?
I'm afraid I'm lost. I can't get home because I haven't got any money.
Yo, I've got a problem, haven't you? Now, where exactly is I?
Hindmere.
I'm here in Surrey. And what would your name be?
Matthew. Matthew Gore.
You stay right there, Matthew. PC 2974 to control.
Oh, my darling. Oh, I thought I'd never see you again. Are you all right? Really, really all right?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all you've done.
Well, I'm afraid it wasn't very much in the end, was it?
You did everything you could.
Come on, Matthew. Let's get you home. I've got all your favourite things waiting at home for you for tea.
Well, I've already had a soup tea here in the canteen. Oh. Expect I can manage a bit more.
Well, goodbye, Mrs. Gore. Well, Matthew, I hope that's the last time you ever get into a car with anyone you don't know.
Well, thank you again.
I wonder if I could just have a quick word with you alone, Mr. Gore, before you go.
Yes, of course. You go on, darling. I'll be with you in a second.
Well, first of all, I can put your mind at rest. Matthew's come to no harm at all, as far as we can tell.
Are you sure?
Well, the police surgeon's given him a pretty thorough check-over, right as rain.
Thank heaven for that.
Yes. It's odd, though, he doesn't even seem to have been frightened. It's quite the most considerate kidnapping I've ever heard of.
You don't know why it happened, then?
Not really. But there's a couple of things you ought to know.
Oh?
Yes. First, he appears to have had a number of injections in both arms. Now, the doctors have no idea what was injected, but whatever it was, it doesn't seem to have left any after effects. All the same, we think you ought to keep an eye open for any delayed reactions.
I see you're right.
Now, the second thing is even more curious. Matthew is convinced he's been in a car crash and that his leg was fractured.
What?
Well, there's nothing to support that except some slight abrasions on his left leg, which, according to the doctor, seemed consistent with the use of a plaster cast.
But no fracture, you say?
No. Matthew says it was in plaster, and that the people at the hospital gave him a new treatment which made it mend very quickly. But we've had x-rays taken, there's no sign of a break.
The hospital?
That's what he said. Matthew doesn't appear to realise that he was kidnapped at all.
Your appetite obviously hasn't suffered any ill effects.
That was lovely.
Good.
Well, now that you've refueled, why don't you tell us all about it?
Again, I keep having to tell everybody.
Well, you haven't told us yet.
No. Well, I was coming home from school and this car stopped. And a man got out and sort of wandered and looked up and down the road as if he was lost. Well, as I was passing him, he said, "Excuse me, we're looking for Densham Road." So, of course, I told him how to get to it. He said, since I obviously knew it well, could I tell him whereabouts in Densham Road was a house called Coppins, where Mr. Gore lived.
I see. So you told him that was our house?
Yes.
Then what?
That's the funny thing.